Hello, this is Greg Allison with Galactic Gregs and Green Gregs coming to you on the 4th of August 22. Time on deck is 18:50 hours Central Daylight Time. My friends, I'm going to tell you this. We have the technology, we have the systems already developed to completely take out all ICBMs coming at us, all hypersonic missiles, and everything if it's just properly integrated between space launch boosters, interceptors, and weapon systems that we've already developed. This can be done. What we need today, with all the tension in the world, with all the ruckus being made about Sarmat 2 missiles, about hypersonic missiles, about possible launches of DF-26s and DF-21s on Guam and Okinawa, DF-17s on their carriers. We need systems to stop this, and we can develop them. We need a Doolittle type effort. If you know what Doolittle was, he was a guy that came up with a way to put flying fortresses on aircraft carriers to make a bombing run onto Tokyo. Of course, they couldn't fly back. They couldn't land on the aircraft carriers. They had to land in war-torn China, which was under Japanese occupation, which wasn't a good thing. I meant that guys got captured become prisoners of war. But that was the we can do attitude in which they threw a mission together real fast and totally caught Japan and Tokyo by surprise. They did not expect to get bombed by America right off the bat after hitting Pearl Harbor. This is the kind of thing that I'm talking about, guys. And I'm going to talk to you and show you. I'm going to go through what these various interceptors are, their weights, and how many of them you could put in these various space launch booster concepts that I've been talking about. So you're going, holy smoke, Greg, you're talking crazy stuff. No, this stuff exists. What you've got to do is just integrate this stuff together, and you'll have to come up with some drone swarm software to go with all these interceptors so they'll act in cohesion. But this kind of software is already in development. A lot of it has been developed. And with the data fusion systems that the military has, and the kind of data fusion systems we were looking at back when I was working missile defense, strategic defense initiative in the 80s, yes, we were looking at data fusion for stuff like that. How you would have a fleet of ICBMs coming at you and all the decoys, how you would distinct threat object maps to distinguish what was decoy, what was warheads, and then how to assign what weapon to what warhead. This was ancient technology by today's standards, guys, and we could do this. But we got to have a can-do, not a milk the government contract attitude toward it. We've got to have some thinking out of the box. But the systems exist. I'm going to go through them. I'm going to go through them one by one by one. But hey, the really crazy thing about this is all it would take would be sand. Of course, you'd have to deliver the sand to the right place, right? But these kind of velocities. Listen, I worked on the ARIS program, Exoatmospheric Reentry Interceptor Subsystem. We had a kill vehicle. It was an interceptor, meant to fly on a Minuteman missile. It was the prelude to what became the ground-based interceptor, which is based in Fort Greely and Vandenberg Air Force today, having been built by Boeing, which was the Army-developed anti-ballistic missile system. Now, my friends, I got to tell you this: the ARIS was the descendant of something called the Hohmann overlay experiment. HO. That thing put out spars of metal ribs, and it actually intercepted its target with that. Well, we planned to, with our vehicle, our kill vehicle, was going to throw out a little net, not nearly as big as the Hohmann overlay experiment spars threw out, a net, which was actually made, just a small one. It was made from a crash bag in a vehicle, a safety crash bag in a vehicle, basically, except it was going to be thin, and basically we were going to fire an air cartridge into this thing and it blow this thing up real fast, just instantly. All I was going to do was throw plastic out there. The plastic was going to be enough to kill a kill vehicle if it hit it. I mean, a reentry vehicle. Because at these velocities, at hypersonic velocities, very little mass carries a lot of energy. A grain of sand would hit like a dynamite stick. And by the way, these shields on these hypersonic vehicles and on re-entry vehicles have to be able to withstand 4,000 degrees heat. And so they're typically ceramic. They would crack these. Even titanium will shatter when hit with this stuff, guys. So you can absolutely shatter the heat shields. You shatter the heat shields, the vehicle's gone. It's done. And all that, it's going to hit a lot of dynamite anyway. So it's done. We even looked at the idea we thought, but just by flying close enough, we might strip the electrons out of the incoming warhead. But we found that wouldn't work. But we actually looked into that. That was one of the things that we thought was possible. But so you can take these systems. I've talked about fragmentation devices and things like that, but it wouldn't take anything. Your fragmentation, if you want to use fragmentation, probably number 9 birdshot would work best. I'll go into that in a little bit. So hang on, guys. I'm going to show you a little background here real quick, and then we're going to go through some of these systems. You're going to say, Greg, your thumbnail was crazy. You had an AGM-158, cruise missile, and the Ares 1X, and a hypersonic vehicle. What they all got to do with each other? Well, I'm going to explain it. Just hold on to your hats, buddies. Buckle up and take a ride here. I'm going to take you through some things here real fast. So grab hold of the steering wheel and hang on tight. If you're not driving, grab the handle over by the side. All right, here we're going to go. We're going to go screen share. Bing, 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 bing. Now, just to kind of a background, I've covered these here on my Galactic Greg's channel already. I've started talking about this in my video Starship Troopers, where I introduced an idea of a booster concept that would be able to carry cargo point to point instantly and wouldn't take all the fueling time of a Starship, which would probably be 4 hours or better. And I was talking about using either of these as to advance the concept of an aircraft cargo arsenal ship. And the aircraft cargo arsenal ship is something the Defense Department is already working on. And that's why I introduced the AGM-158, the JASSM, the Joint Air-to-Surface Standoff Missile. And I'll be talking about that in a minute. But that has already been a concept developed to be put into pallets, just fill pallets full of these things and dump them out of a cargo craft, which is flying outside the reach of, say, an adversary like China with their long-range missiles. And these things can zing in for 1,000 miles. So that's the capability of the AGM-158. So we're going to talk about these, and we're going to talk about even using AGM-158s because they're already being developed for this kind of application and other things. So just hang on. So my stop all hypersonic vehicles. I realized here when I started talking about these arsenal rocket ships that holy smoke, this concept would be capable of stopping hypersonic vehicles. And so I did this video. And then because in this video I had mentioned the ATACMS, a lot of people probably didn't understand the power of fragmentation submunitions. So I actually posted this video yesterday on Galactic Greg's. I posted it a few days ago on Green Greg's, showing submunitions coming from an ATACMS and how they just set the whole field around on fire with explosions and fragmentation. And if you don't remember, the power of fragmentation is that like a grenade can take out everything within 15 meters. I mean, the fragmentation just take everything out. So if you had something like a grenade and then you put them, say, 20 feet apart, then you've got this covered, guys, because you're 10 feet to the each other one, really. I mean, to the center line between them. So you've got plenty of coverage for fragmentation devices. And so one of these devices that I talked about in this video and over here was a concept for a launch vehicle based on solid rocket boosters. I'm going to show this in a minute. Basically, essentially, kind of like we used to fly on the space shuttle. These solid rocket booster sticks here, except these things would be a 5-segment booster like being used on Ares, today on the Artemis 1 launch vehicle, 5-segment booster instead of these 4-segment boosters. And they produce 3.6 million pounds of thrust. Now, I talked about various concepts for these. I'm going to show you a little bit. The concepts I talked about was like, or what I called an SRB-5 booster. SRB-5 booster would use 5 on the first stage, have 3 on the second stage, and 1 on the third stage. And SRB-5 boosters first stage would produce 18 million pounds of thrust. There is no booster on the drawing board out there anywhere that produces 18 million pounds of thrust. The closest thing is a Starship, which would produce 16 million pounds of thrust. Never has a booster that powerful been fired yet. Hopefully the Starship will be doing some static firing soon, because they're planning to fly that thing. They need to static fire that a lot before they fly it. I've only got 5 engines. So, and there are 5 engines of something that's already been developed. So the reliability of the system I'm talking about ought to be through the roof. And reliability is inversely proportional to parts count. Hey, knock, Elon, you got a lot of parts. Hope you get it worked out. You have a lot of reliability with all those parts you got there in that Starship, my friend. And I do hope he gets it worked out. Starship's got a lot of promise if he can make it work. All right. So SRB 5. We'll walk through a little bit of that. I'm going to show you some of these other things here. Switch tabs. Yeah, this is the Artemis 1 rocket, and these are the 5-segment SRBs. This is what I'm talking about using these. Just a single stick. Oh yeah, the second stage produces 10.8 million pounds of thrust. The third stage would produce 3.6 million pounds of thrust. You can throw a lot of stuff out there. In fact, if you just needed to throw stuff, several miles down range, if you just needed to get up, 40 miles, or like what the booster would get to for it burn, it'd burn out at 20-something miles, but go about 40 miles, burns 2 minutes. So if you need to throw out a cloud of drones that would be on that kind of parabolic trajectory, like the booster itself would be on, which would be good enough for most weapon systems. A SRB-5 first stage only, with 18 million pounds of thrust, with say 5-pound submission carriers, like I talked about, if you could get them dispersed, we'd be able to create a cloud swarm of drones that would could potentially, if you can distribute them, cover an area of 43 square miles, an impenetrable wall of fragmentation drones. But I'm going to go, instead of talking hypothetical, we're going to talk about drones and systems that are already out there that could be integrated into this. That's how this video is going to differ from the others. We're talking about weights. And again, Ares 1X. You could do this as a single stick. You only need one. One of these guys can carry 3.6 million pounds of payload up here. This could all be payload. This could be pallets in here, or subcarriers with all kind of munitions just loaded up all the way through, because this is your booster right here. Flight computer and avionics would all be up here in the forward skirt of this thing. I mean, that's all you need. This could all bust open and deliver all kinds of mayhem upon anybody you shoot it at, including some other missiles that's got their own range, such as the AGM-158. Speaking of the AGM-158, here it is, my friends. Bing. Yes, AGM-158 with 1,000 miles of range when it fires, from wherever it fires from. And bear in mind, this is the AGM-158 JASSM, Joint Air-to-Surface Standoff Missile. Now, the thing about the JASSM is it weighs 2,251 pounds. So if you took, if you said the single stick, well, it's got 3.6 million pounds of thrust. Let's throw away a big part of that and just say, hey, I'm going to just take up 3 million pounds of payload. And just figure I got to have pallets and interface hardware and other things. So let's figure you got 3 million pounds of that for missiles. That is 1,332 JASSM missiles. 1,332 AGM-158 JASSM cruise missiles. 1,300. Wow, what if you just flew 1,000? Holy guacamole smoke-a-moly, 1,000 missiles? Guys, that's huge. You go, Greg, that's not a hypersonic missile. Will be being launched from a rocket booster like it? It will absolutely be hypersonic. But you need maneuverability. This thing has got air surfaces, so and you'd have to modify it to make a hypersonic vehicle out of it. But the Russians have already done that. They took their Iskander surface-to-air missile and modified it to be launched from a jet to go hypersonic velocities, because the jet was the first stage, kind of like my rocket, which will take them a lot faster than the Kinzel hypersonic vehicle, my friends. This could be much faster. It could still be maneuverable, just give it a little different body, a heat shield, if you're going to fly it low. If you're flying it up in space, it don't need all that. It needs something like brilliant Pebbles. So like I said before, you'll need to do trade studies to optimize for the requirements for what you're trying to stop. And you might have a combination of these weapon systems. When they're a huge booster like that, you could fly stuff to take things out in the various regimes and even in successive waves. So we can talk about all that in a little bit. In fact, the single stick SRB, like an Ares 1, might be the optimal launch vehicle. But imagine this: 1,332 of these make 3 million pounds. So if you just fly 1,000, now and I mentioned before too that if you've got a vehicle coming in at you, let's say this is your target, this is a kill vehicle coming at you, and it's hypersonic and it can maneuver. Well, shoot, just fire 3 missiles in various ranges around it that can home in on it toward the end. So if it tries to divert one way or the other, one of the others got it, kind of like wolf's hunt, like a wolf's hunt, you know. You try to dodge this wolf's going to get you. That's the pack. That's the value of having a pack. When you got submunitions, you can hunt in packs just like wolves. But better yet, with the fragmentation capabilities that you'd put on this thing, it'd be a fragmentation device, not a hit kill device. You got far higher chance of hitting something even when it's diverting around. Far higher chance of taking it out because it's going to fly into your debris cloud that you're going to set off beforehand. Now, take this in the next step here. I talked about ATACMS. You're going to say, Greg, ATACMS, you got to be kidding me. ATACMS just a little, yeah, it's great for, use in Ukraine. Actually, we don't have the ATACMS in Ukraine. They got other smaller munitions being fired from HIMARS, the M142, and from the M270 a multiple launch rocket system. This is a picture of the M270 multiple launch rocket system here. This is your ATACMS missile coming out. This guy can carry this and 6 smaller missiles, or 2 of these. The HIMARS can carry one of the others, like half of this pack. So believe it or not, the MLRS has more launch capability than HIMARS, but this HIMARS fits on a regular utility truck vehicle like the military uses, instead of this being a specialty platform. So the military kind of likes HIMARS better. This guy has a lot of capacity here, this ATACMS rocket. Now, the thing about the ATACMS rocket is, now it's a big rocket. This is a full-blown rocket here, and it's 2 feet across. This thing weighs 3,690 pounds, but you could carry 833 of these on the end of a single stick booster. Oh yeah, that single stick booster could be the 3rd stage of an SRB-5 or the 2nd stage of an SRB-3 rocket, where it have a 1st stage of 3 SRB rocket segments and a 2nd stage of 1 single stick. So depending on your requirements, for how far you're trying to get this stuff out there. Plus, this thing's got a pretty darn good range of its own. So let me click out of this. And so there's a lot of, and this is an interceptor type rocket too, but not as much as some others here. This is more of a surface to surface type rocket, but we'll cover some surface to air interceptor rockets here in a minute and other things. But when you look at the cloud swarm, what this thing can put out, then you'd realize it will totally work in this application. For here is one coming in. You can see the top is already starting to separate here. I'm going to blow this up. I covered this in the other video. I won't go through it as much in this video. I'm just going to show you real quick. Spinning up, slings that out. All those submunitions slung out. Look here. Here they are. These are the submunitions coming out. A whole cloud of them. Each one a fragmentation device. Look, when they hit, it's fire all around. Boom, 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 boom. They're destroying everything in the vicinity. They totally, where these things are coming and hit that tower, are totally wiping out everything. You see all this stuff, all this debris flying off? Any of this would take out a reentry vehicle, a hypersonics vehicle, a heat shield. All of that would take them out completely.
So where were you on March 2022 when President Biden signed the death warrant?
That is some commercial. Gonna play the video to the end. Anyway, so there you go, my friends. That's the HIMARS, the ATACMS rocket, which can be fired from HIMARS, or you can put them on this SRB. But 833 of these on a single stick SRB. You're gonna do an SRB-5, well, multiply that times 5, 833 times 5. There you are. That's what you can fly. Better than that, actually. Because now, all right, now Aegis. Let's think about things like Aegis. Aegis. You know, this is a big missile system. This too can be flown on our system here. Let's see, I thought I had the weight of the Aegis written down here. I know I got it somewhere. Maybe it's in this article here. The Aegis is an interceptor. This is a strategic missile in and of, here it is, I got it. These things are big rockets. These are not small. These are ground to space launch intercontinental ballistic missile interceptor systems. This is a full up interceptor, my friends, with control surfaces and all kind of neat things to it. This is the Aegis, ballistic missile defense missile here, guys. So the Aegis is heavy. Aegis weighs 32,000 pounds. 32,000 pounds for this Aegis rocket. It is not small at all. But you can still put 93 of these on a single stick SRB. You probably wouldn't want to put them on an SRB 5 or an SRB 3. When I say SRB, I mean solid rocket booster 5 segment, 5 boosters on first stage. SRB 3 would be 3 boosters. If I talk about a 5, I'm really thinking if you got a 3-stage version of it, you got 5 boosters, 3 boosters, and 1 booster. So one single stick SRB launched from the ground carrying this, it would extend the reach of these, and these already have a mighty good reach. But imagine you could lift 93 of these within the 3 million pounds. 93. You've got a cloud swarm basically of 93 absolutely fantastic interceptors coming at you and whatever you're launching. So this is not trivial. This is something you'd launch when you're being fired salvos at. If you're not firing salvos, we're firing onesie-twosies at you, then you just launch maybe 3 Patriots or 3 of these Aegis missiles. Not Patriots. I'm not even talking about Patriots today. Brilliant Pebbles. Started out with Smart Rocks. There's Ronald Reagan, and there's Edward Teller. Back when there's the Lowell Wood, Edward Teller, Ronald Reagan. This is when they were introducing the concept of the Brilliant Pebbles rocket. Not rocket, but it's interceptor system, guys. Brilliant Pebbles have different weights for their concept. They come in at several different weights. The heaviest one is, well, they range from 1.5 to 2.5 kilograms. 2.5 kilograms is 5.5 pounds, which is real close to what I was talking about the other day when I was talking about 5-pound interceptors. I wasn't far off. But this guy has these. This is optimum for in space because it don't need aero control surfaces. Look, you don't have a tungsten rod in here. The hit with this thing, the direct hit with this thing is all it takes to take out any kill vehicle, this is a kill vehicle, take out any re-entry vehicle, any weapon system you want to take out. These divert thrusters are able to make this thing maneuver like crazy. This thing is highly maneuverable, just like a what? Just like a hypersonic vehicle, actually more maneuverable. It'll be traveling at hypersonic velocities. These are so lightweight, you could hunt in packs with these too. We could send 3 or more after every single target coming in. And these things were meant to be mass producible affordably. That's why they were small. And there's videos of these things flying in a room, essentially back and forth like a helicopter, just using those divert thrusters. Those things are amazing. They are absolutely amazing. So imagine this, Brilliant Pebbles. So if you take 5.5 pounds and you divide it by 3 million pounds, so you got 3 million pounds of payload space available for these Brilliant Pebbles, you could take a 545,454. Let me repeat that. 545,454 on one single stick booster. Now, with this guy, you probably want to throw it up there higher and farther. So you probably at least want to use a first stage of a 3 SRBs and a second stage of 1, or you might want to go for a full SRB 5. But you could launch, because you could really put these way out there. I mean, these could take basically the launchers out near the initial phase of flight. Just when, as soon as they come up out of the atmosphere, these things could be hitting them way down range if you can detect them that far. So the SRB-5 and SRB-3 and SRB single stick Aries style could carry. I'm talking Aries style actually using the 5-segment motor. Aries 1X rocket actually had a dummy field segment, but we are testing the 5-segment motors now, and they're ready to fly on Aries 1 right now. 545,000. Okay, so what if I'm off by a factor of 10? You still got so many interceptors. It's mind-boggling, guys. And I'm not off by a factor of 10. There's no way I'd be that far off. Because I'm already giving you 600,000 pounds reserve for interface hardware above the and for extra lift capacity, higher thrust to weight ratio of the launch. So think about that, guys. The thrust of the SRB single stick is 3.6 million pounds. So if you got 3 million pounds of payload available for these guys, 545,000. And I'm choosing the heavier one just to be conservative, but also it might be room for your fragmentation device. For your fragmentation device. Just imagine that, guys. 545,454. Okay, we'll round it down to 500,000. Even if you had 100,000, that would be mind-boggling. There's nothing going to escape. Sarmat, now, Sarmat with all its murdered warheads and decoys, forget about it. You can take out the decoys too, just for fun, because you got excess capacity if you launch this thing. They launch all their Sarmats. But guys, there's no reason we can't have missile defense that works. What we got is contractors that are trying to milk the system and come out for a bullet to hit every single little thing coming at them. You don't need that. But we can do it. We can provide that. If you can build the bullets, we got the launchers. And all things considered, yeah, an SRB is not a cheap booster, but compared to what it's throwing up against, compared to what you're defending, and compared to what they would spend on these other interceptors, it's not a bad deal. And, oh, Greg, how in the world will we produce all of these? Well, the plant up in Ogden, Utah, not Ogden, up in Promontory, Utah, I've been to it many times, the rocket plant. It was designed to be able to handle 60 space shuttle launches a year. And we never had that kind of flight rate. So they always had reserve excess capacity. So the Artemis rockets will only launch a couple of years. They're only be using about 4 sticks. So imagine that. There's tons of reserve capacity to build these boosters up there. That's what I've been talking about. But Brilliant Pebbles, I think, is an approach. Brilliant Pebbles should also be based in space from satellites, as should lasers. And I've talked about the use of lasers in these systems too, guys. How you make the lasers work. No, you're not going to fire lasers in the ground to take up a reentry vehicle way out there miles downrange. Laser won't last. If you had a balloon vehicle, you had a airframe at high altitude dirigible blimp, you could fire the laser from it, or maybe from a ground laser straight up to a set of dither mirrors in one of these platforms, which would redirect if you need enough power, because you don't carry so much power on air platform. But the lasers are getting better. We're getting with our lighter weight. We're talking about putting lasers on fighter craft now that could damage sensors and things, maybe even do some damage to the actual enemy aircraft. So this is not absurd. And the whole idea of the Brilliant Pebbles is to be able to mass produce them, have lots of them. And so we're talking about lots of them, guys. These could take out anything coming at you. So imagine, I'm going to stop the share for a second. Think about this, guys. Sand will do the job. I'm showing fragmentation devices off that ATACMS rocket, but those are like grenades. Grenades will do the job. Artillery, that stuff will do the job. But my friends, you don't need all that. Sand would actually do the job. The problem with sand is, you might not get, because each grain of sand don't have that much mass, it may not accelerate out on the cloud you want as fast as you like, but it would accelerate out. It would grow out. So if you spun it up, especially, it will fog out. It'll make a heck of a fog, heck of a cloud. That might be the way to go. For warheads coming in, some they're flying through a cloud of sand, they will not survive. That sand will burn up in the atmosphere. Meteors that you see are basically the size of a grain of sand, and are meteoroid, the size of a grain of sand. The meteor is actually the plasma trail created by that little bitty meteoroid. But if you had fragmentation shot, most of that's going to burn up before it comes down. Hey, number 9 bird shot. That's got a little mass. It's got a little bit of lead. That stuff would fling out real nice. Number 9 bird shot. Let's make up a whole bunch of number 9 bird shot or sand, some combination thereof. Sling that stuff out there, and you're going to stop whatever's coming at you. You just got to get close enough to it. But if you can create a impenetrable, hey, look, guys, you can create a whole 43 square mile if you can disperse it. Problem is, you're going to have other rockets to get that dispersion to cover that 43 square miles. So then that cuts in your weight and won't be 43 square miles. So what if it's 25 square miles? That would be awesome still. It can be done. What's that, about the length of the island of Guam? So think about this. Yes, we can stop Sarmat Satan II. So the unstoppable, according to Vladimir Putin rocket, is absolutely stoppable. And I've told you how to do it. The other thing that you can stop is the hypersonic missiles, all of them. You can stop anything that anybody's going to shoot at us with this kind of stuff. These things could be, hey, I would take these single stick and maybe some two-stage vehicles and put them in Guam, maybe even a few maybe 1, 3, or 2, 3 stagers in Guam. I would put Okinawa. I would put a two-stage system in Okinawa, a few of them. Every coast we got, we should have single stick interceptors up and down our coastal areas. Our missile defense base up in Greeley, hey, give them some 3-stage versions. They could really take out a lot of stuff. Add it to the ground-based interceptor they got. You don't need a missile silo to launch them, and they're ready to launch. You might just cause the weather, like Fort Greeley, Alaska. The wind. Oh, yeah. Every month, ever since 1947, they've had hurricane force winds at Fort Greeley, Alaska. Straight line winds. I'm not talking wind gusts. Wind gusts up to 100 miles an hour. How do I know? I lived there 2 years. Okay. Lovely place. I don't want to say nuked. So this might be one way to stop that. This is a defensive weapon. It's to stop somebody from nuking you. Some people say, oh, well, why do you need to stop China? I'm just trying not to get nuked. This is what this is all about, guys. You mean I should just sit here because I won't let China do whatever they want to and let them fling nukes at me and blow me out of smithereens? I don't think so. No. Okay. So the other thing we could do is these kind of systems have more capability in that, especially if you're launching AGM-158 JASM joint standoff weapons, guys, that joint air-to-surface standoff missile. Or any of these systems, even the ATACMS. You had an invasion fleet crossing the Taiwan Strait, you could take it out. You could take out a Navy. So it shows, especially if you use the 3-stage versions. If they start firing missiles at you, even if it's onesie twosies, and you don't want to throw up your whole cloud swarm because they're not throwing a whole fuselage at you, which they probably would do that because they don't want to overcome your little Aegis and your THAAD missiles. Oh yeah, THAAD. We didn't talk about THAAD yet. I haven't pulled that up. THAAD missile is also a theater missile, and it is weighs 1,984 pounds. You could put 1,517 THAAD missiles on a single stick SRB 5-segment booster. Basically, a big Ares 1 type rocket. Oh yeah, we've already flown an Ares 1 rocket, guys. So we've got the technology to fly the single stick rocket today. We are developing pallets for AGM-158s to be launched out of cargo planes. So that technology is somewhat existing. You just need to modify it for putting on top of a rocket. Parachutes probably aren't going to be the way to pull the container. Open up the payload shroud and let these guys start popping out of whatever's carrying them. Kind of like missiles popping out of kind of like rounds popping out of a magazine, if you know what I mean. Round is a military terminology that some people use for in civilian world to refer to what I call kibbles, which is the thing that I feed the nuts. Follow my Green Griggs channel, you'll know what I'm talking about. You got to talk a little code on these platforms. They don't like certain discussions. So what you want to do, of course, is you want to figure out what threat you're trying to deal with, and work up the requirements and figure out how to optimize your system for that. But not too much. Look, guys, we need a little program today. And by gosh, if you just put sand up in this thing, that's pretty darn good, pretty darn doolittle. The Ares 1 was a fast developed rocket. It's been developed. It just needs more engineering to adapt it to the actual real 5-segment booster. But this thing's been done once. Ares 5 has been done, the Ares 1X is flawed. No new technology is needed, just some engineering integration. None of this stuff requires new technology. If you want to do several of these other carriers, then what you've got to do is come up with essentially some software for drone swarms. And that stuff's already in development too. So that's not that new, not that different. Put it in with the data fusion system you normally use for an attack like this. Military is really good with data fusion. I'm gonna pull up the THAAD rocket here in just a second. Thought I had all this stuff open and I didn't. All right, this ain't coming up. Backwards here. Why did it come in when I typed in THAAD? I had to type in the whole thing. That's odd. It's in the search engine here. Anyway, let me show you THAAD. Share. We are terminal. It used to say theater. It changed the name. It used to be theater, altitude aerial defense. Well, theater is like the theater of your battlefield. Well, this thing actually reaches further than that because theater is really what a Patriot rocket does. Patriot rocket is very powerful too. We could have done this whole thing with Patriot rockets. Patriot rocket is an interceptor rocket. Aegis is an interceptor. Pebbles are interceptors. THAAD is an interceptor rocket. This is bigger, of course, than your ATACMS. This is an interceptor. We need a whole lot of these in Guam right now, a lot more than what we got. That rocket weighs 1,984 pounds. You could put 1,517 of these on a single stick SRB. It'll absolutely be flying hypersonic up there above the atmosphere. When it's flying, it won't need any special heat shield. If it's launched within the atmosphere, yeah, you're going to have to put some kind of heat shield over this, guys. But this is not an aero surface method control. It's controlled by diverting the flame down here, thrust vector control. So you won't have to have wing body type stuff to make that work. This is meant for bullet-to-bullet impact. But if you're throwing up 1,517 of these, or even 1,000 of them, they could hunt impacts again against an incoming fuselage of warheads. So there you are. There's many options. The best thing to do is run some trade studies, and that can be done fast. Some trade studies, quickly analyze what's the best alternatives to use. It might be something that's not even on the plate here. What I am showing you is the art of the possibility. What I'm saying is this can be done. It can be done with existing technology, even not just technology, but existing systems. Integrated systems that already exist. Shoot. Just give me an Ares 1X and load it up with sand. That would be pretty consequential, especially if I had something to blow it up or spin it up and make it come out in a big cloud. Oh yeah, if you're downrange. Look, I've been downrange. If anybody's ever been dove hunting, and you're in a field and there's guys all around the whole field with shotguns, we're all shooting these birds in the air. You're going to know what it's like to have shotgun shot coming down all around you and on top of you. Had it happen many times. It don't hurt you because it reaches terminal velocity. The shot's small, and I've had shotgun shot coming down around me. As long as it's at a good distance and it's falling to the end of its trajectory, terminal velocity through the air, I've had it follow me many times. So if you're using number 9 bird shot or sand, if it could somehow get through the atmosphere and survive because you're using this maybe at a low altitude, you're flying in low to come get intercept this thing, not going to hurt you. If you're using grenades, probably if especially altitude, that's what's going to blow. Most of the time, this stuff's going to be used over places that are at sea or over tundra, deserts, military bases. So there's not going to be that many people in harm's way of stuff coming back down. But it certainly beats nuclear warheads rising up, whatever the case may be. So there you are, my friends. I've even said you can launch your stuff up high enough and just start and just let these things explode and just drop a rain of fragmentation devices and just rain curtains of these things and take out stuff coming in. So many ways to do this. All this stuff deserves some study, some trade studies that should be done fast. We need to get with this because the threat today is very high. We could do a Doolittle effort. By Doolittle, not do a little bit, but named after Doolittle. They put the flying fortresses on the deck of an aircraft carrier and did a quick bombing run over Tokyo right after they hit Pearl Harbor. That was sweet. Tokyo was what? Holy smoke. All right, guys. That's the attitude. It's the can't-do attitude. There is no such thing as an unstoppable missile, okay? So just understand that. So with that, I'm going to say thank you for watching. Watch my other videos. Check out my other channel. If you're watching on Galactic Gregs, check out Green Gregs. If you're watching on Green Gregs, check out Galactic Gregs. I'm going to focus on Galactic Gregs first. So everyone, thank y'all, and Greg out.